on?
Yep.
Hi, Angela. We're hoping this will work. I don't know. We'll see. We're on chapter 22. We're going through the answers to the student work. And then we'll start a little bit of the lecture. Today's chapel day, so we have a shorter period today. So first question, we're on page 163. What did a first century shepherd do for his sheep that Jesus does for his flock of believers?
So what does Jesus do, or what does the shepherd do?
Both do. I mean,
They both lead their flock of believers?
They lead their flock, yeah. Yeah, Jake.
They lead them by their voice.
Okay, they lead them by their voice, by their word. Hannah?
Calls them by name.
Call them by name. Protect them, care for them. All of those things. Since Jesus was talking to Jews, who might be the other sheep of verse 16? Now, before you answer that, you need to know that in Jesus' day, and really even today, with Judaism, there are two types of people. There are Jews and you are Gentiles. So if you are not a Jew, you are a Gentile. And you are a Jew by virtue of being born to Jewish parents. It's very much an ethnic heritage, a biological heritage as much as and especially in modern day Israel, as much as a religious heritage. So Jesus is saying someone other than Jews will be brought into the fold, will become sheep in the fold. Who's he talking about? He's talking about the Gentiles. He's saying that salvation isn't just for the Jews, it is also for the Gentiles. You need to understand how offensive that would have been to the Jews. It would have been an anathema to them. It would have been unthinkable to them. We are God's people, not Gentiles. But that's exactly what Jesus is saying. This is one of the first hints in the New Testament that salvation will be open to all, not just the Jew, but also the Gentile. And then what kind of person is the servant described in verses 13 and 14? This is the hired man, or the hireling is the way your curriculum puts it, because they use the KJV. What kind of person is that servant, the hired servant?
One who doesn't care for his flock?
Yeah, he doesn't care about the flock. He's just doing a job. He's not personally invested in the sheep. He's not responsible for them. Why is he not as dedicated to the safety of the sheep? They're not his. They're not his. He, like we said, he's not invested. His commitment to their welfare is not as great
But he's getting
as the
paid.
shepherd. What?
But he's getting paid.
He's getting paid, yeah. And you should, what I would liken it to, let's use a car. You're 15 and 16. How would you treat differently your parents' car that they let you drive, or a car that you worked for and slaved for and paid for yourself? Which one are you going to be more careful with? And if you wreck it, you've got to pay for it.
My own.
Your own car, right? It belongs to you. But the other one, that's just your folks' car. Maybe not quite so invested in that particular car. Although I will say that for my husband's 50th birthday, I think it was, I rented him a Camaro for a weekend, and I looked out the window the next morning, and he was washing the car. He was so excited to have this car for a weekend. I was like, wow, you're pretty invested in that car that goes back tomorrow. But yeah, that was probably the best birthday present I ever gave him. He had a Camaro. He had a Camaro SS, a '68 Camaro SS, when he was a young adult and had money. before you had a wife and children. So imagine that you are a sheep. Okay, give you some time to imagine that. With a high enough sheep IQ to understand all that the shepherd does for you, how would you feel toward the shepherd?
Gratitude.
Gratitude, yeah. Well, can you translate that for me, please?
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd be grateful. You would love the shepherd. Our dog Mabel is very, very, very affectionate. She loves to give hugs. She'll put her paws at your waist and then put her head on your shoulder. And she has this habit that she started very early on when she came to us. And if I just come down the stairs in the morning, or when Jeff comes home from work, or when I come home from work, she looks at you and she goes, and she gets really excited and she runs to her toy bin and she gets her big fluffy, her favorite toy, her big fluffy pink bunny. And she brings it to you as a gift. She's grateful you're home. She's happy you're home and she wants to celebrate that. Yeah, I think the sheep, if they're capable of such feelings, are grateful for what the shepherd has done, and they love the shepherd. So I'm not going to make you answer this question, but it's worth thinking about. How faithful are you to stop and have those same feelings about your Savior? So now we're going to take this sort of hard right turn and go into the lesson. And we're going to be doing John 9:39 to John 10:21. And Christ's ministry is coming to an end here. It's not quite there yet. I think it's chapter 12 where Jesus says, the hour has come. But this is one of his final messages to the people. And it's a stinging message for the Jews, for the Jewish leadership. And so we're going to look at 5 different groups to whom Jesus is speaking. We'll not finish this today, but hopefully we will tomorrow. We're going to look at, this is the way the curriculum divides it up: blind sinners, thieves and robbers, true sheep, hirelings, and the true shepherd. So beginning at verse 9:31, it says, or 9:39, it says this: Jesus said, "For judgment I came into this world, that those who do not see may see, and that those who see may become blind." Some of the Pharisees near him heard these things and said to him, "Are we also blind?" Jesus said to them, "If you were blind, you would have no guilt. But now that you say we see, your guilt remains." He's basically saying, yeah, you're blind. So I'm gonna say a sentence. I am almost certain that this is going to be on a quiz. So I want you to write this sentence down somewhere. This is Jesus's message in a nutshell. As long as a person thinks that he is all right, he is all wrong. As long as a person thinks that he is all right, he is all wrong. In other words, Jesus is saying to these people that because you think you have no guilt, because you think you've already arrived, because you think you are good enough, you're not. You're not right at all. So spiritually speaking, the Pharisees thought that they could see, that they saw rightly who Jesus was, and therefore they were blind. If they had admitted their blindness, if they admitted, we were wrong about you, Jesus, Christ would have given them their spiritual sight, just as he did the physical sight of the blind man in the last chapter. We need to realize our sinful condition before we can have a relationship with Christ. I think I've talked about Mel Goebel in this class before, but he was the head of prison fellowship in the state of Nebraska when my father was the president of the board. And he was an ex-con. He spent a lot of time in prison because he killed someone. And he came to Christ through the ministry of prison fellowship in prison. He was released. He began to work for Prison Fellowship. To this day, he left Prison Fellowship, but he's running his own ministry for at-risk women in Colorado now. And he married a pastor's daughter. I think I told you the story of how hard it was to ask that woman's father for her hand in marriage. Hi, I'm Mel Goebel. I'm an ex-con. I'm a murderer. Can I marry your daughter? But he did. And he said this. I've never forgotten what he said. It is easier to convert a convict in prison than it is the average upper middle class American. Why? Because a convict knows he's messed up. He knows he needs help. He knows he's not all right. The average upper middle class American is like, I'm fine. I got 3 cars. I got a big house. My kids are going to great schools. I'm fine. If we don't see our need for Jesus, we'll never come to know him. We have to see our need. We have to see ourselves as we really are before we can trust Christ. We need to realize that we are, as I've told you many times, dirty, rotten sinners deserving hell before we can become followers of Christ. It's interesting to me that when we compare ourselves and we try to justify ourselves and how good we are, we tend to use the worst possible person, right? Like Hitler is the standard. I'm not that bad. There are people that are worse than me. I must be okay. But is that the standard? I'm here to tell you that one of the people I admire most is Mrs. Schrock. But she's not even the standard. And I can't even live up to that, right? What is the standard? Jesus. Perfection. That's why we're not all right. That's why we need help, why we need Jesus. Because we cannot live up to that. There is none that are righteous, no, not one, is what we are told in Romans 3. So let's talk then. These Pharisees were blind. They were blind sinners that could not see. Had they admitted their own blindness, had they admitted their own need, Jesus would have given them their spiritual sight. Now we're going to talk about thieves and robbers to the sheepfold. So John 10:1 says this, "Truly, truly, I say to you, he who does not enter the sheepfold by the door, but climbs in by another way, that man is a thief and a robber." If you can't enter through the door, what are you? You're not supposed to be there, right? You're not. You're a thief or a robber. Now we should stop here and talk a little bit about sheepfolds, because Jesus is using this imagery of a sheepfold, which was a safe place that the shepherds would lead the sheep to at night, so that they wouldn't be attacked out in the open field. They'd go out and graze during the day, and then come back to the sheepfold at night. And often there were several shepherds' sheep, several different flocks of sheep that would be there. And so that way they would be safe. They'd be safe from thieves. They'd be safe from people attacking them. And there were several kinds of sheepfolds. One was something like this, stone walls with thatch roofs in Jesus' day. That would be their shelter. If you were in the Golan Heights, if you were in the hills of Jerusalem, it might be a cave where they took shelter. Or it might be a place, if you were out where there were thorn bushes, there might have been thorn bushes, a surrounding thicket of thorn bushes that would keep them safe. But in all of them, it was a for all of them, it was a place of shelter for the sheep. And the shepherd would protect them and would stay awake all night to make sure nobody came to steal the sheep or to kill the sheep. And the shepherd knew his sheep well. He knew each one by name. And the sheep recognized the shepherd's voice. I wasn't able to find the video this morning of the shepherd calling his sheep, but I hope to play that for you tomorrow. And all of these sheepfolds had one characteristic in common. Only one door. Only one door. Only one way in, only one way out. The shepherd entered by the door. It was at the door where the shepherd would remain, that the shepherd would guard. Then he has this definition of a thief. Let's go to the next one. A thief is someone, obviously, who breaks in and tries to steal something. I don't know, and he says that the thief comes in through another way. He doesn't come in through a door, right? He can't get through the door. He doesn't have the key. The door is locked. And so they have to go through another way, maybe a window rather than the door. Any way you slice it, they're not supposed to be there, and they're sneaking in. If you were locked out of your house and you decided to crawl through a window, what would you be anxious to make sure your family knew when you came through that window? It's me. Yeah, you're probably gonna be in trouble because you were out doing something you weren't supposed to do and you had to crawl in through the window. But you'd want to make sure they know I'm not a thief. I'm not a thief. When I was in 8th grade, 7th and 8th grade, part of 7th and all of 8th grade, we lived on General's Row over at Offutt, and we lived in this big 3-story house, and Carrie and I had our bedrooms up on the 3rd floor. And when I saw Carrie's bedroom, I was like, this is my bedroom. I want this bedroom because it had a fire escape out the window. My parents gave Carrie that bedroom. They gave me the one where I would have had to jump down 3 stories to get out of my room. And they knew that if I tried to escape, I would have to walk through Carrie's room, and Carrie would either stop me or narc on me, one or the other. And so I didn't get that one. We would want people to know that it's okay for us to be there. In the early 1980s, my dad was the point man. He was working for ConAgra, and he was the point man for a bill that was passed. Your parents might remember this. I don't know if they're around. It's called LB 777. 777, I think. I'd have to look it up. And it was a plan to revitalize downtown Omaha. Downtown Omaha was dead. There were no shops. The old market was fairly vital, but the rest of it, there was no riverfront. There was no NoDo. There was the Civic Auditorium, but it was not that great. And so there was almost nothing down there. And so ConAgra, wanting to stay in Nebraska and wanting to revitalize business in Nebraska, pushed this bill, LB 77, to make Nebraska more favorable toward large companies so that they would come to Omaha. And they did once it was passed. My father was the person who lobbied for that. He helped write it. And during that time, there were a lot of people, even good friends, that were opposed to LB 777 because where ConAgra sits now and where on the east side of the old market, there's an Embassy Suites and there's ConAgra's old campus. That was all vacant old buildings. It's called Jobbers Canyon, and they tore that down in order to build that campus. It was that bill that caused all of the revitalization of downtown Omaha because it made it more affordable for people to invest in downtown Omaha. In fact, my mother's lawyer took her up to one of the top, actually I think it was the top of what used to be ConAgra. She said, look out, he said, look out on this whole development. She said, that's all there because of Marty, because of what Marty did. But there were a lot of people that opposed it, and he got threats from people. He began to get threats. And so ConAgra put, and this is before these things were really popular, a security system in our home. And we'd just gotten it. And what we were told was, if it's going beep, 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 have I told you this story before? You should say this. Oh, basketball. Beep, 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 that you've been penetrated and you need to get out. So we, Georgianne and I came in through the garage door, and the garage door was never locked, but the garage door was locked, and we didn't know how to get in. And I don't know if a cop came by. I don't think we didn't have cell phones, but a cop came and showed us how to use a credit card to break into our own house. We opened the door, and the thing starts going beep, 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 and Georgianne's standing there like, we've been penetrated! We've been penetrated! And I'm like, sweetie,
We're the
ones that penetrated. We broke into our own house.